أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 185, Surah An-Nur. Okay, everybody share some reflections.
Assalamu alaikum. In the last ayah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَوْمَ يُرْجَعُونَ إِلَيْهِ فَيُنَبِّئُهُمْ بِمَا عَمِلُوا. It's interesting how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said here, بِمَا عَمِلُوا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inform them of what they did. Sometimes we get lost in numbers. Sometimes we get lost in ranks. That I want this rank, I want this number. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is judging you based on your actions, not on your numbers. So as students of knowledge, sometimes we have to kind of come out of this like, okay, I need to be the top. I need to get that perfect mark, or else I am a loser. You know, sometimes we have to also think like that. That I'm trying my best. It's not possible. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I feel like I'm not doing the haqq. Sometimes the haqq is what you do, what's your actions. That's what shows you the haqq.
And you are your best judge. You know what you're capable of. You know what you can do. You know your limitations. You know your abilities. And who else knows about them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's possible that the people who are right with you, even they don't know what your true potential is. Even they don't know what challenges you're facing. They don't understand. But at the end of the day, this is a matter between you and Allah. Therefore, a person should always have fear of Allah. And because of that fear, he should keep the matters between him and his Lord straight. That I know about the commands that Allah has given, and I know to what extent I am observing them. I know to what extent I am following them. He knows, He is the judge, and He is the one who will give recompense. That we learned earlier, ta'atun ma'rufa. Obedience is well known, it's understood how a person is to obey. And the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, they are clearly laid out, especially in the surah. Ayat mubayyinat, absolutely crystal clear verses. So, you are the best judge. You know what you're capable of doing. You know how much you're really trying, and Allah is the one who's observing you. And repeatedly in the surah, the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Alim, is mentioned. Isn't it? That He knows, He knows. He is watching you. He knows about you. He knows what's best for you. He knows what you're capable of. So at the end of the day, we should be fearful of Him. And this will enable us to keep a check on ourselves. And we don't need other people to tell us, do this and do that, and don't do this and don't do that. We will keep a check on ourselves. You see, when it comes to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that is also of various levels. Some things He commanded us to do, explicitly, clearly. Like for example, He told the men, grow your beards. That's an amr. It's a command. You understand? So, with regards to that, there is no choice. Now there are some other things which He practiced Himself, but He, for example, did not make it mandatory on the people. Meaning He did not tell them that they must do it as well. Like for example, when it comes to fasting on Mondays and Thursdays. He did not say that you must fast on Mondays and Thursdays. If He had said that, then it would be an obligation. It was His practice. And because of that, whoever follows that practice, he is highly rewarded. However, because He did not explicitly say, He did not command, He did not instruct, therefore, it's not at the same level. Do you understand? So, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is also various types. Some commands, He has given them, He has instructed us to do it. Like, for example, as I mentioned to you for the men, grow your beards and trim your mustache. So, this is an obligation. Men don't have a choice with regards to that. So, similarly, He said that when your child turns 7, instruct him how to pray. When he turns 10, make sure he's praying. This is what? An instruction. We don't have a choice with regards to it. We can't say, oh, it's not in the Quran that the children have to start praying at 7. Do you get it? So, this is the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not like the advice or the instruction of any other person. You understand? It's coming from the one who received revelation. It's coming from the one whom Allah chose from all people to deliver His message. It's coming from the one whose akhlaq was the best. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. So therefore, His command, His instruction cannot be compared like the instruction of any person. One is the command of the Prophet ﷺ. Another is the command of some other person. Who will be given preference to? The Prophet ﷺ. Because we are being told we cannot make His call like the call of others. So with this ayah, we have reached the conclusion of Surah An-Nur. And Surah An-Nur, the main ayah, the central ayah, around which the entire surah revolves around, is the An-Nur. And the surah is also named An-Nur because of that. The question is, what is Nur? The surah is named Nur. In the middle there is the An-Nur. What is Nur? Light? Guidance. Okay, primarily what is it? Light. What does light do? It enlightens the surroundings. So basically it repels darkness. Light removes darkness. And remember that darkness, it is of several types. One type of darkness is zahiri. It's physical, tangible, apparent. During the night when the lights are off, it's dark. This is one type of darkness. Another type of darkness is one that is in the heart. That is batini, that is internal, that is hidden. That is the darkness of the heart. And what is that? Ignorance, lack of iman, lack of guidance. This is what? The darkness of the heart. And then there is khariji darkness, external darkness, where a person is surrounded by ignorance, where a person is surrounded by everybody fulfilling their desires, where a person is surrounded by falsehood, because of which he does not see the reality, he does not perceive the reality. So one type of darkness is that which the eye perceives. And how can you repel that? By just turning the light on. But the real darkness, the darkness that is really a problem, is the darkness of the heart. Because when a person has darkness in his heart, then the external light also cannot benefit him. Now the question is, what is the darkness of the heart? It is nifaq. It is hypocrisy. It is disbelief. And what is it that removes that? What is it that repels that? The light of iman. And where is the light of iman? In the heart. As we learned in the An-Nur, that مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ. The example of his guidance, of his light, is like a niche. And what does that represent? The chest cavity, in which is the misbah. And what is the misbah? The heart, in which is burning the light of guidance, the light of iman. So, the light of the heart is the light of iman, and that is internal guidance. And that is when a person's mind, when a person's heart is enlightened. And as a result of that, what happens? A person views the world differently. A person views the world differently. He views everything differently. Then the darknesses that are outside, they dispel. And a person begins to perceive reality as it is. Because what happens? In this day and age, in fact in every time, there has been falsehood that has been very prevalent, that appears to be true. There is confusion. There are differences. And because of that, people get lost. They don't know what right is. They don't know what wrong is. They don't know what they should do. They don't know what they should leave. They can't understand what's beneficial. They can't understand what's harmful. Why? Because they lack internal light. They lack the light of the heart. When a person has light of the heart, when a person has iman, then he begins to see everything in its right perspective. Like for example, if a person does not have iman, he will see people being born, he will see people dying. Will he think about accountability? No, he will not. When people are committing crimes, when people are doing good, will he think about a sense of accountability? No, he will not. He will see the sun coming up, he will see the sun going down, he will see the rain clouds coming, he will see so many things. But will he learn anything from that? No. It's just a physical system for him that does not teach him any lesson. But when a person has the light of the heart, when a person has iman in his heart, then what happens? The same things, he views them differently. He sees the sun. He sees the rain clouds. He sees people being born. He sees people dying. And he takes a lesson from that. It guides him. It reminds him of who his Lord is. It makes him more humble before his Lord. It makes him love his Lord more. It makes him fear his Lord more. It makes him more conscious of his actions. So what's the difference between the two? Both people are seeing the same things, but they are benefiting at a different level. Why? Because the state of the heart is different. One has the light of Iman and the other does not have that light. One has internal light and the other lacks that internal light. Therefore, there is such a huge difference. Now, in this surah, we see that Iman is mentioned, the meaning of Iman, what it really means to be a believer, that a person doesn't just claim that he believes, but rather he proves it with his actions. And at the same time, hypocrisy, nifaq, is also exposed. So we see in this surah that there is a contrast between Iman and nifaq. A contrast between Iman and hypocrisy. That where Iman is to accept, it is to believe, to affirm, to submit, to obey, to shape one's actions according to the instructions, to mold one's entire life according to the instructions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided. In the manner that a person dresses, in the manner that a person goes to his house, in the manner that a person does his work. It molds every aspect of his life. This is what Iman is. But contrary to that is what? Nifaq. Which is that a person does a lot of lip service. He says a lot of things, but he does not prove anything. He says he is a believer, but he does not follow the commands that Allah has given. He does not mold his life, his actions according to the instructions that Allah has given. So we see that where Iman is to accept and submit, nifaq is to claim and refuse. Nifaq is that a person just claims, he says big things, but he does not do anything. So nifaq is basically when the heart and the tongue, when the actions and the tongue, they do not conform with one another. And that is equivalent to what? The darkness of the heart. That there is no lamp of Iman, there is no light of Iman in the heart. And when there is no light of Iman in the heart, then a person, obviously, he cannot mold his actions according to the instructions that Allah has given. And we see that all of the commands that have been given in the surah, from the beginning to the end, those that were mentioned before Ayat An-Nur and those that were mentioned after Ayat An-Nur, when can a person truly implement them? And when can a person observe them everywhere that he goes? Any place, any person's house, any country, any society. When can he observe them? When he has the light of heart. When he has the light of the heart. When he has the light of Iman. Otherwise, it is impossible to observe these commands. Like, for example, lowering the gaze. When can a person lower the gaze? When constantly there is a reminder, I must lower my gaze. When the light is inside, when the instruction comes from the heart, when the motivation comes from within. And if the motivation is only coming from outside, that person is watching me, they are looking at me, therefore I should lower my gaze, then will a person be able to follow the commands of Allah? No. He will not be able to. He might be able to at times, but he will not be able to all the time. So we see that it's the light of the heart. It's the Iman in the heart that enables a person to mold his life according to the instructions that Allah has given. And if a person lacks that light, then he cannot accomplish anything. He cannot do anything at all. And we see that in this surah, many different types of commands have been given. Commands that are with regards to a person's private life, with regards to social life, with regards to family life. And right in the middle, the light of Allah is mentioned. And right after that, nifaq is also clarified. Kufr is also clarified. How? By the two examples that we learned. Which examples? The first one was of the sarab, the mirage. And the second one was of being in the darknesses of the sea. Darknesses of deep sea and of a cloud that prevents the light from coming as well. Now, these two examples, what do they represent? They represent the barriers or the hurdles that prevent a person from following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They illustrate the causes of the darkness of the heart. What is the cause behind the darkness of the heart? What is it that prevents a person from obeying the commands of Allah? It's these two things. That if you look at the sarab, that is the analogy for desires. Desires. Because the first thing that prevents a person from following the commands of Allah is what? Desires. I wish to do otherwise. I wish to do something different. This goes against what I want to do. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. Desires. So this is the first thing that prevents a person from following the commands of Allah. So if you look at the example of the sarab in ayah number 39, that a person is just fulfilling his desires. He is striving, doing one thing after the other. And what he thinks, what he assumes to be so beautiful, something so perfect, when he reaches it, he finds it to be nothing. He finds it to be nothing. So he spends his entire life following his desires, chasing his desires, fulfilling them, and not caring about what he actually should be doing. And as a result, what happens? He ends up wasting his life. He's chasing a sarab. He's going after a mirage. He chases that his entire life. He does not care about what is more important. He's fulfilling his desires one after the other. Because you see, the person that has been mentioned over there is zam'an. Who is zam'an? The person who is thirsty. The thirsty one has desire for what? For water. For a cool drink. And in order to satisfy that desire, he does not care about anything. What does he do? He just goes for the mirage. But when he gets there, he finds no benefit. This is the reality of a person who is fulfilling his desires. That when there is a dilemma, one is the way that you like. One is something that you want to do. And on the other hand is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they're two completely different things. It creates a challenging situation for a person. It makes it difficult for him. What should I do? I don't want to do this. I don't want to follow this. It's going to restrict my freedom. It's going to restrict my friendships with other people. It's going to restrict my social life. It's going to affect me in this way, in that way. Now, one is your desire, and on the other hand is the command of Allah. If a person follows his desires, okay, he will get temporary satisfaction. But will that bring him eternal satisfaction? No. When he gets to the sarab, what does he find? Nothing. So if a person in this dunya, he neglects the commands that Allah has given, and he fulfills his desires, at the end, in the hereafter, what will he find? Eternal pleasure? Will he find reward? No, he won't find it, because he never did anything for the sake of Allah. He only was concerned about his desires. So this is one cause, one thing that causes the darkness of the heart, that prevents a person from following the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. What is the second reason? What is the second cause behind the darkness of the heart? What is it that prevents a person from observing the commands of Allah? Bad environment. Bad influence. Bad company. That when a person, he has surrounded himself with darkness. He has surrounded himself with waves upon waves of darkness. And a dark cloud, a deep sea below him, and nothing around him except for darkness. Nothing around him except for darkness. There is no light. No light at all. It was possible to get light from above, however, there is a cloud over there. There is also something that is preventing that from reaching him. So in this way, a person has surrounded himself in a bad environment, in a bad company. And if he even wants to see himself, if he even wants to reflect on himself, that what am I doing? What is the purpose of my life? Where am I wasting my life? If he even wants to reflect on himself, he cannot do that. Because when he extends his hand out, lam yakad yaraha, he cannot even see his own hand. So another thing that prevents a person from observing the commands of Allah is bad company. If you surround yourself with people who do not care about the commands of Allah, will you be able to implement them? No. Will you be able to follow the commands of Allah? You will not be able to. What did we learn in An-Nur? That you have the lamp, and you have it in a glass case. And you have that glass case and that lamp where? In a niche. Protecting that light. Magnifying that light. Making it even more bright. And then you have that golden, rich colored oil, which is also, giving more light, which does not cause any smoke. So, every person has been born with some fitrah, with some voice of the heart, which tells him, you should be doing this, you should not be doing that. Either a person can give importance to that light, make it ignite even more, make it shine even more. And how will he do that? By feeding it the right oil, by keeping it in the right place. And as a result, a person will be able to implement the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. But if a person ignores that voice, if a person does not ignite that light, if he does not provide it the right fuel, if he does not put it in the right place, then what's going to happen? That light is going to burn out. It's going to get extinguished. Then a person will not be able to do anything. So there are two main things that prevent a person from observing the commands of Allah. And what are they? Desires and bad influence. If you want to observe the commands that you have learned, whether they are in the surah, or they're anywhere else found in the Quran or the Sunnah, what should you do? What do you have to do for your own good, for your own benefit, for your own success? What do you have to do? Think about it. Control your desires. Force yourself to go against them when they contradict the commands of Allah. I remember once I was supposed to do something and I just told my mom, I don't feel like it. She said, what do you mean you don't feel like it? I got it from her. What do you mean you don't feel like it? This religion is not about what I feel like and what I don't feel like. This is not a reason. If you feel like doing something and you do it, another point you don't feel like doing it, you don't do it, at the end what do you have? You're just following your desires. At the end you have nothing. Your whole life, you've been chasing your desires, you have nothing at the end. What do you have to show? Nothing. This life has not been created uselessly. What did we learn in the previous surah? أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. This life has not been given to you so that you say you don't feel like doing something and you feel like doing something and that's why you do it. No. You're human beings. You have an intellect. And Allah has sent guidance. And you're required to observe that guidance. And if you surround yourself in bad company, even that will prevent you. Even if you have that light inside your heart, they will not let it shine. They will not let it shine. You will not be able to survive. Eventually it will extinguish. You have to put yourself in the right people, in the right places. Don't put yourself in fitna. We learn in the Quran that on the Day of Judgment, the people, as they will be crossing the bridge, there will be complete darkness and each person will have only his own light. His own light only, which will enable him to cross the bridge safely. And the hypocrites who were amongst the believers in the dunya, what will happen to them? They will have no light. So they will say to the believers that let us share your light with you. We were with you in the dunya. But the believers will refuse. And one of the things that they will say to the hypocrites is that وَلَكِنْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. You put yourselves in fitna. You put yourselves in situations where you could not protect your iman. Where you could not preserve your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You put yourself to risk. So it's your fault. Don't blame anyone but yourself. Now when it comes to the environment that a person is in, when it comes to the company that a person is in some situations you have a choice to choose. Isn't it so? And in other situations you don't have a choice. Like for example, if you're at work, if you're at school, you have the freedom to sit with whoever you want. But when you're at home, you can't choose your family members. If somebody does not pray, if somebody does not follow the commands of Allah, can you replace them with somebody else? You cannot do that. So, the situations that we do have control over, it is our responsibility that we must choose the right company. Now, many times it will happen that, for example, a person is within certain people who have studied the Quran. You will not find such people all over the world, anywhere you go. Isn't it so? You're here for now, You're studying, you're surrounded by these people, they motivate you, you motivate them, they remind you, you remind them, because of them you do many things. Right? You get motivated. But as you move on from here, and you go to different places, you go through different phases in life, such people will not surround you all the time. But what is your responsibility? That you have to keep feeding yourself the right oil. You have to keep refueling yourself. You have to keep connecting yourself. So how will you do that? Practically. Once the Quran has been studied, that's it. Close it and move on to something else. And for days on end, don't open the Quran? No. Even though the course has been finished, even though the course has been completed, it is your responsibility to guard the light that you have lit. And in order to do that, you have to keep coming back to such places. You have to keep connected with such friends. You have to keep reminding yourself of the warnings and the reminders that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given in the Quran. Because if you don't, then your light will be affected. It will reduce. And may Allah protect us, it might even extinguish. Because there are people, it happens with them. And why does it happen? Because they move away from the Quran. They move away from the gathering of the Quran. They move away from the friends that they developed through the Quran, because of the Quran. And when they move away, they don't have the right company. And because of that, whatever light they have in their heart, eventually it reduces and it decreases and it blows out. Just yesterday, actually, somebody sent me an email. It was in the mail that somebody who's very high up in politics, they read the Quran every single day. They're not Muslim. In the news, right? They're not Muslim, very high up in politics, but they read the Quran every single day. Why? Because they want to know about how Muslims think, so that it gives them a better idea of, what things are going on in the world today. And also because the Quran is a great instruction. There's a lot of good instruction in the Quran. It's very powerful. And I was thinking, this person is not a Muslim. He reads the Quran daily. Daily. Why? To get some instruction out of the Quran. Imagine, if they are reading for worldly benefits, is it not our job that we read the Quran as well daily? To keep our light, to preserve our light, so that we can continue the amal that we have started. We can continue to remind ourselves that the actions that we have started, we don't stop them, that we die upon them. Because how unfortunate, a person starts something, he doesn't continue it, and then he dies without doing it. How sad. Whatever he started, he did not complete. So in order to preserve this light, in order to make sure we have the right company, what do we need to do? Keep ourselves connected with the Quran, the gathering of the Quran, the people of the Quran. The moment you drift away from them, your light is going to reduce. You will not be able to act upon the Quran. You will not be able to continue the practices that you have started. You can write this down and go back to this statement. Remember, if you do not keep a strong connection with the Quran, with the source, you will not be able to hold on for too long. This is a fact. Because you need to constantly fuel the flame. If you ignore it, it will die out. Now with regards to the company that we cannot change, we are bound to such people. They're related to us. They're in our own house. What can we do? First of all, make dua. We undermine dua a lot. We don't give it much importance. Recently, a lot of people, they emailed me concerning, certain problems that they were facing. And I asked some people, I took their suggestion as to what I could suggest them, what I could advise them. And the answers that I got was just tell them to make dua. Tell them to make dua, because only Allah can change the situation. Only Allah can change the hearts of people. Only Allah can provide the means. So first of all, make dua. Never, ever underestimate the power of dua. And secondly, spread the light that you have received. Because remember that when the lamp is surrounded in the glass case and that lamp is placed in the niche, what's going to happen? It's going to not only contain the light, but it's going to spread the light. It's going to increase the light. So it's not possible that there's light contained in one place and it does not spread. When you put the lamp in the niche, what's the purpose? That the whole room gets enlightened. Isn't it so? It's not just the niche that is going to have light. The whole room is going to have light. So when you have light inside yourself, and you are constantly fueling that light, what's going to happen? Naturally, it's a law of nature that that light is going to spread. It's a law of nature. The light is going to spread. So when you look at other people who are around you, who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, ask yourself, how much amal are you doing? How much Quran are you reading? How much dua are you making? How many of your duties are you fulfilling? If you're neglecting, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, obviously the light is not going to spread, even to those who are closest to you. When you do your best, it's not possible that other people will not be affected. They will not see, they will not witness. Of course they will see. They will be affected by it.